never considered joining your local ambulance or volunteering with an emergency medical system. Either way, you don't want to miss today's episode, where you learn about tools that are available for EMS training, as well as what emergency medical services looks like in Montana today. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Talking Health in the 406, where we're one community under the big sky. I'm your host, Jennifer Vansickle, longtime healthcare worker turned health educator. And we're once again joined with our guest, Francine Janik of the Jefferson Valley Emergency Medical Services. Let's listen in as she tells us about EMS in Montana today.
We were able to purchase 3 mobile SIM units, and the mobile SIM unit is a semi-truck that has an ambulance box in the back and an emergency room in the front, and in the middle of it is a control room, and they have high fidelity mannequins that you run from the control room that you can run a variety of high fidelity training scenarios. And we know that when we train people, if we train them with mannequins that can interact with just like a real human, we can make people better at their jobs. And we can reduce mistakes, and we just get people that can perform at a much higher level of proficiency. And so the idea behind these is to go out and take these to rural Montana where they don't have any training. They can't afford the $20 or $30 or $40,000 mannequin to do this high fidelity training. And we have a very trained group that's run now by a nonprofit that goes around the state and charges just the cost of providing that simulation training to ambulance people, to emergency room staff, to local physicians, anyone that needs or wants that high fidelity training. And it's a way for if you get both the emergency room and the EMS staff, they can literally put the mannequin outside and create a scenario. The ambulance crew loads them up into the ambulance box, spends a few minutes with them transporting them, and then works on that integration and transfer that patient to the next level of care.
I was lucky enough that a few weeks ago, a coworker and I got to experience the Sims truck, and they guided us to a mannequin that was pregnant and said, okay, you're going to deliver a baby. And the mannequin screamed and asked for an epidural. Not scary screamed, I have to say that. And it was cool. I offered to just stand back and watch and let my coworker be the one to deliver the baby. But yeah, I know they can set it up with, postpartum hemorrhage. They can set it up with kids. They had a young child mannequin there, with head injury. Lots of different scenarios.
What's nice is they can do low incidence, high acuity type training. So like delivering babies, not many of us EMTs out there get to deliver a baby. Most are very controlled. There's a lot of scheduled C-sections, but you just never know when that's going to happen. In 16 years, I've been doing EMS for 32 years, and for 16 years, I was always able to get the mother to the hospital before she delivered. But on year 16, I delivered 4 babies in like 8 weeks.
Wow.
And so it's just one of those things that it's a normal human process, but it's very scary, and it's just sheer panic for several moments until the delivery's done and the baby's out crying. And then it's just one of those most incredible processes you get to see. And so it's nice to have a very highly simulated experience that the patient talks to you and screams at you and interacts and asks questions, and you can ask them questions. It just gives you more comfort with experience in that whole process in a very safe environment where there's not many women that are pregnant that wants to let a new EMT deliver their babies. So.
This is probably true.
So it's just nice to be able to do that. They do a burn scenario that's incredible. We don't see a lot of burns, thankfully, in the state of Montana. But when we do, we need to know how to be able to treat those patients. And so it's nice to be able to simulate that whole experience and get your adrenaline flowing so that you learn how to operate under those high stress conditions.
Perfect. And so if somebody wanted to join their local EMS We know there's a sim truck that can come around the state and help them so that they can feel comfortable with that they're not, stepping into the abyss of the unknown. What are some of the other benefits of joining EMS or volunteering?
Well, the obvious benefit to joining EMS is you get to help your neighbors. In a small town, I've lived there for 54 years, and I've literally hauled my teachers and my family and my friends and my foes. You get to take everybody, and it's kind of funny. As a law enforcement officer and EMT, they don't ever want to see you as a law enforcement officer, but they beg to see you as an EMT. But other things is it's a great stepping stone for many professions, and it's required for many professions. My sisters all took EMT classes. Two of them were nurses and said it was the most beneficial training they got in their whole career was to do EMS work because it taught them how to interact with patients and how to make high-stress decisions quickly and just to understand all those things that happen to people when they're in emergency situations, whether it's trauma or medical. Coaches benefit because they learn how to treat patients, especially when you have that person that goes into cardiac arrest or is severely injured, or if you're in a bus crash that we hope we never see, that you're able to interact and take care of your children that you're taking care of. For people that want to do firefighting and law enforcement, these are all professions that you have a leg up if you get that EMT before you join those professions, because it's easy, you'll get hired much quicker. And then for the medical profession, they all require patient contacts and things like that. So we see right now a lot of college students that want to go into being a physician or a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner. They are taking EMT courses to get a lot of those patient contacts that they may not get in a small hospital or even a bigger hospital because they're so specialized. Where in EMS, you get to see everything. You have to know how to treat everything that somebody calls 911 for.
And it's interesting that, when you think everything, I think broken leg, I think, head injury. But not only that, the main reason for transports of kids under 17 is behavioral health. And so that's a whole other world you learn how to deal with.
It's a huge thing right now after having COVID. People did not handle the stress of it very well. So it stressed families out. People have used more drugs and alcohol over the last couple of years, so their coping mechanisms are down, and children just aren't able to cope with what's happening and not being around their friends or the different things that happened when school was online. And those children that had issues already with mental health, they seem to have been exacerbated by COVID. And so these kids are suicidal. They want to hurt themselves and others. And so we have transported double or triple the young people this last year that we've ever hauled in the past.
It's very scary. That's horrible. I mean, COVID was horrible, but that's also just incredible. And, definitely an area a lot of people don't know how to even begin to touch, which we could probably have a whole other podcast series on, definitely. And then, Francine, can you talk more about the different levels of EMS and getting to those?
Sure. There is 4 licensure levels of emergency care providers in the state of Montana, and they are in sync with the National Registry of EMTs 4 levels. And the first one is emergency medical responder. That is the lowest level of licensure. It takes about 80 hours of coursework to get that certification. You get all the certifications through a testing procedure. You have to take an exam to show that you have the knowledge base to provide care at that level. EMRs, you can find them in most of your non-transporting services, so like fire departments that don't run ambulances, ski patrols, search and rescue units, even police officers. That is a very easy level to achieve and to maintain. It takes about 16 hours every 2 years of core competencies that you have to refresh on every 2 years.
And is that like basic first aid, CPR, those type of competencies?
You learn splinting, you learn how to treat breathing, diabetic emergencies. You're taught how to use Narcan for overdoses, how to stop bleeding, excessive hemorrhaging, how to even deliver babies, how to do all those basic things. What you don't do is IVs, you don't backboard people typically. You don't have to have the competencies necessarily to move patients in an ambulance. Now the EMT level is the next level, and that is probably the most common level across the United States. I mean, most people are certified at that level. That level takes between 120 and 160 hours, depending on the course that you're taking, of instruction. Those EMTs are trained to do stabilization of fractures, to treat breathing emergencies, diabetic emergencies, overdoses, cardiac emergencies, strokes, spinal injuries, traumatic brain injuries. They're trained how to move patients, to lift them, stabilize them, and get them down the road. In Montana, which is unique to many states, is we have what's called endorsements. And those endorsements EMTs can take with additional training and approval by the medical director. They can do IVs, they can give some medications like epinephrine for anaphylaxis, they can give nitro and aspirin for heart attacks, they can give Benadryl. They can give some of those life-saving treatments that they need out in the field with those endorsements. They can put in more advanced airways. They can use the 12-lead EKG machines. They can even use it without the endorsements, the 12 leads, but that additional training really helps them. Then there is the AEMT level, which is probably the smallest level of providers we have out there. This class is much more extensive than the EMT level. Again, they provide pain medications. Some of them do. They're able to provide more IV medications than the EMT with endorsement level is. But they're pretty much an EMT with just some more advanced training. And then our last level is a paramedic level training. The paramedics now have to be gone through an approved and accredited paramedic course. So the colleges in the state of Montana offer those classes. And so like the University of Montana at the Missoula Colleges offers it. I think Flathead Community College offers it. Great Falls, the College of Great Falls offers it. There's the Billings, MSU Billings offers that same course. But the problem with the paramedic schools is that we can't produce enough of them. Mm-hmm. And, EMTs are done locally classes. And last year, this last renewal cycle, which ended March 31st, we lost over 580 EMTs in the state that chose either to not relicense or they aged out, because we do have a very elderly or aged EMT force. I think I'm probably right in the average age for EMTs, and at 57, these people are wanting to retire and do other things other than help their neighbors all the time.
Wow. And so, aside from stepping up oneself to volunteer, I mean, you just think, what is Montana going to do? Because that's tough. I mean, especially in a state with 1 million people, and the number of, EMTs, EMS services in the state, to lose 500 is huge.
It's huge. And EMS, unfortunately, is not an essential service in the state of Montana.
And what is an essential service?
So an essential service is like fire protection.
Okay.
So your fire insurance that you have on your homes, the fire insurance companies have demanded that, over the years, people have fire departments. And your fire insurance rating depends on what kind of fire department you have and how close they are to your house, and that all goes into how you pay for your fire insurance. The other essential service is law enforcement. So we may never use or see a law enforcement officer in our whole lifetime, but we all pay for that service through our taxes, the same way with the fire department. EMS has been people just stepping up and saying, we're going to make this happen. And we still have ambulance services in the state that survive solely on bake sales, that sell enough pies in 10 years to buy a new $200,000 ambulance.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible. But it is no way to run a healthcare entity that is expected to go to any emergency 24/7, 365 days the year. And there is a very large cost to being ready for emergencies. I mean, just because I'm a volunteer ambulance person doesn't mean I get an ambulance cheaper than a paid ambulance company or a for-profit or a hospital-based ambulance service. The equipment all costs the same, whether I do 10 runs a year or I do 1,000 runs a year. It costs the same amount of money to have that vehicle and all that equipment and all that training.
So these that are getting funded by bake sales are expected to step up and play with the big dogs that are in the urban areas. And not only that, but these small bake sale ambulances, most of them are critical access hospitals. They're having to take their EMS service out of their area. I know there's one stat that 31% of all interfacility calls come from a critical access hospital.
Yes. And some of these ambulance services, they transport. Like if you live in Wisdom, Montana, it takes you hours to get to a hospital, and they're tied up and gone from their community, and they don't get paid. They're 100% volunteer. So those people not only pay for all their training and they help raise money and funds for their ambulance service, but they leave sometimes a $40 or $50 an hour job to haul their neighbor to the hospital.
Wow. And so, who could volunteer for an ambulance service? Can a 16-year-old high school kid that hears this volunteer? Or, do you guys...
So that age group, that 16 to 18-year-old, is kind of hard because they can't get a state license unless they receive some special waivers. They can get a National Registry EMT card if they're 16 years or older, but they can't get on an ambulance service. And there's a lot of ambulance service that their insurance companies dictate the age of the people that can ride and provide care on those ambulances. And so like here in Helena, they can't hire anybody that's like under 25 years of age. And in the town of Whitehall, when I first started, you had to be 25 before you could even think about volunteering on the ambulance service. As a nonprofit, we're able to get down into that 18-year-old range. My son, who just graduated from high school last year, as soon as he turned 18, we trained him to be a driver and brought him up gradually, and he got his EMT here about a month ago.
Now, do you have to have a CDL to drive an ambulance?
No, you do not. Ambulances and fire trucks are exempt for the most part for CDL drivers, although some agencies make them get some kind of commercial driver's license, especially for those big fire trucks, but ambulances for the most part do not need a commercial driver's license.
Okay, so interesting.
But the big thing is that if youth train and volunteer, then usually those folks come back when they have time to do it. That age group of folks that are between 26 or 7 and 40 are really busy raising families and trying to do careers. And once you get kids, those folks are just busy with trying to get everything done and to make a living. And both parents usually work, so there's just not much time to volunteer beyond at the school for the kids. And so we're seeing a lot of people that once their kids are grown and off to college, then they find they come back to EMS, especially if they've had any interaction with EMS, and they begin to volunteer again. And that's a really ideal age for us. They're settled, they're able to, they have time to take the class, and they have time to volunteer. And they enjoy doing community integrated health. Some of them do. We have nurses that are at that close to retirement age that don't want to go to the hospital, but they don't want to quit taking care of people. And community integrated health opens a whole new realm of them being able to assist patients out there. And so in our community integrated health, we have registered nurses that help provide that care and can give us a broader base of services, like we can help take care of urinary catheters or do more wound care and some of those more advanced things that the local EMT may not be able to do.
Okay. And it's funny as you mention that, because I don't know how many times I've heard people that are, you know, they could retire very easily and they sit there and say, I'm not going to retire. What would I do with my time?
Exactly.
And voila, there's...
And there was some federal legislation, and I don't know whatever happened to it, but they were trying to pass federally that if you volunteered for an emergency service, whether it be law enforcement or fire or ambulance, that at age 55 you were eligible for Medicare if you were a volunteer. And at the time when they developed it, it was hopes that they would get more folks that were that retirement age to retire and then come back and work in those volunteer systems because they could provide health care. Because that's where most of us get stuck with volunteering, from that age where you can retire and when you really should retire is that health care issue. And so that they were hoping that might help. I don't know what happened to that.
Thank you to Francine for joining us with today's podcast, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Talking Health in the 406. Tune in again next month for our next episode. For any information discussed on today's podcast, visit our website at talkinghealthin the406.mt.gov. Until next time, take care.